Welcome to the Lone Machinist Podcast, where we discuss tools, tips, and tales of the trade.
I'm John Dillahay with 2S in Performance.
I'm Jamie with JSpec Engineering and JSpec Tactical.
And together we're here to deep dive into manufacturing and entrepreneurship in a small shop.
So grab your safety glasses, fire up your machines, and let's make some noise.
Make some noise. So Jamie Peacock, are you there, buddy?
I am.
All right.
Good evening. This time I remember.
Good morning to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Time zones are great.
Time zones are great. Well, man, it's been a week since our last discussion. I guess we'll start off by asking, what have you been up to?
Yeah, since last week when we chatted, I was busy trying to figure out how I was going to run a job. Since then, I've run the job, made about 100 pounds of alley shavings. It was quite a lot of fun. Big plates that got made into skinny little, like 1-inch rings. So yeah, that job I actually finished up yesterday, and then been doing some mold work for the same customer out of 70-75 for composite molds. And yeah, those I was posting on the Instagram, they came out really, really well. Like I must say, the LK for a drill tap style machine really does some beautiful surfacing work. It took me a while to program the parts and make sure I was not going to have any collisions, and got the tool parts the way I wanted so that the cusps would kind of line up with the edge of perimeters instead of I was using a geodesic, and it was doing it stupidly, but I found some additional constraining stuff on there that I could get it to actually follow the perimeter of the contour so that I would get a nice smooth edge on the contour, on the edge of the contour, and the center of it the guys can polish out. So it was a challenge, but got it sorted out. And yeah, just been running a lot of aluminium this week. What you been up to?
Very cool. Yeah, I've been up to similar stuff, running a lot of aluminum. I've been running the 6061, a lot of parts on both my mills. I've got one mill running while I'm setting up the other, which is pretty cool. I have both machines set off of one phase converter, so I can really run one spindle at a time. But it's cool having two machines to run and set up at the same time. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's quite sweet. I see those caps you were making this week look really, really good.
Yeah. I also made 25 of those gas caps. I got those delivered the other day. A lot of them are going out to anodized, and then when they come back from anodized, I'm going to do a contrast cut on them, where I do a chamfer along the outside edge, and then I mill out the pockets, and then I still engrave the middle, so you get that cool anodized look, but you have, chamfering and a contrast cut. So those are going to come out nice, I'm sure.
Yeah, your stuff looks really nice when you do those contrast cuts.
Yeah. So I got those delivered. And then today I finished running, I believe it was 10 lids, exhaust lids, and then I got 10 rear scooter fenders. So
okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying you had some minor issues with your machines.
Yeah, my older Sharp, man, I only had like 3 or 4 more parts left to do op2 on, and I have some kind of tool pocket proximity sensor on my umbrella tool changer that was it was just acting up. I don't know if it was getting coolant in it or chips in it. I kept blowing it out, but it kept giving me an alarm 1950 on my old Fanuc controller, and I don't know exactly what it is. I looked it up on Google, and they said just get the debris and the coolant off of it, and it should work. What I ended up having to do was, when it would keep alarming out, no matter what, I had to restart the machine, and that seemed to have fixed it after I cleaned it. I don't know if that reset something in the controller or what, but that seemed to have fixed it, and I was able to get all the parts done and get the box of parts delivered to my customer at 9:00 tonight. So that was a close one.
Yeah, those alarms can be rather rather persistent and rather tedious. Interesting that you had to
Yeah.
reset the device or the machine, like reboot
Yeah.
it. That's kind of strange
Yeah.
because the alarm should
Very
just
weird.
clear. Like, yeah, that's rather strange. But at least you got it sorted out.
Yeah, I was hitting reset on the controller and it kept alarming out. Yeah, I just turned off the back of the machine and it seemed to fix it. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, power cycle does wonders.
Yeah, it
That's the
really
good old
does.
computer thing. Have you tried switching it off and on again?
Yeah, you got to reboot that RAM, man.
Yeah, just reload everything and see if it sorts its shit out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, no,
amazing. It does
at least you
wonders.
came right. Yeah, no, it shouldn't work, but it does. But yeah, at
This
least
is,
you came right with it.
yeah, it's been a really busy week and it came through in the clutch and I got all the parts done and now I can finally breathe and focus on the next parts. I got some magnesium parts that I got coming up next on one machine and a prototype to do on the other, so that should be really fun. I enjoy doing new stuff.
Yeah, the where so you machining magnesium? That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Sounds like a fire hazard.
yeah, yeah. I'm absolutely terrified to do it, but yeah, I'm gonna run instead of water-based coolant, I'm gonna run oil-based coolant, like as you would see in like a grinding machine or like yeah, like a grinding machine
That's
or a Swiss
terrifying.
machine.
All the BBS Motorsport, they ran magnesium alloy rims, and they were just running bloody coolant. Like they just ran coolant. I was taking chips and going outside. The my colleague I was with used to smoke, so I used to run out, go grab a bunch of chips, go sit outside while he had a smoke, and light the chips on fire. Being super
Wow.
responsible. Don't tell OSHA. I actually took a bunch of shavings and brought them back with me, like a bunch of long strings in my toolbox, so that I could use them to ignite thermite, as one does.
You're playing with thermite, Jamie?
I may have. Not the worst thing I've done.
Wow.
I used to get up to a lot of stuff in my youth. Now I
You
try
too,
and be
huh?
a responsible adult. It's not easy, but I try.
Combat robots.
Yeah, that's where the spare energy gets put these days. Combat robots and fishing. At least fishing is a totally different thing. Like, because that's something I battle with is switching my brain off from work. I'm always thinking about work. At least when I go fishing, I'm then not thinking about work. I'm thinking about fishing. Whereas combat robotics, it's the same stuff. It's fusion, milling parts on the mill. It's yeah, there's no separation there really.
Yeah, I struggle with that as well. I have a very, very one-track mind,
Yeah.
and once I get into something, that's all I want to do, and I don't really have a lot of balance in my life.
Yeah, the
I'm trying to
balance
break that up.
it's a challenge. It's a real challenge trying to not just focus on one thing. Like I was actually
Yeah.
chatting, I was on the Taps and Patience Discord yesterday, their Patreon Discord, chatting to some of the guys there, and we're discussing like how how many hours you put in and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I put a lot of hours into work, but at the moment there's lots of work, so I do that. When I get a gap, I take a break and I go fishing, but that doesn't always happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, gotta make the money, gotta pay the bills, man.
That's it. Like, yeah, unfortunately, you can't live for free. Wish I could, but you can't.
I want my cake and I want to eat it too, Jamie.
Exactly. But that's the long term goal. Make lots of money so that you can take a break
Yeah.
and actually enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure automation some sort is gonna come in there and help make
Yeah,
that happen.
automation or um, yeah, or just process improvements and run ahead. Like that. That's my goal for this year. I want to go away in June, so we're going to. I should be getting a PO from a customer like this week still. And if they keep those numbers up that they're talking about, I will just overproduce and deliver in the beginning of June and go on holiday. Like
Oh man, that's a
take a
great
week off.
strategy.
Yeah, because it's for them it's on a monthly basis. They're running through parts. So for me to overproduce a month's worth of stock is really not the end of the world. The material cost on the job is like 10%. So I make 10% less on this batch, and I just deliver next month. I don't have to actually manufacture anything.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but not unfortunately, not all customers are like that.
Yeah, cool customers make a world of difference. It makes
Oh
life
no,
so much better.
yeah, 100%. Like I've got a customer for those molds coming today to pick up. I realized I don't have the one T slot cutter I need, so I've got to go and try and find one today so that I can. It's like some stupid little T slots that really just shouldn't exist. The part was designed by the CSR. It's our local like metrology type guys, but you can
Hmm.
tell it was designed with no budget in mind. They didn't really care how it was made. They just wanted it this way. Like I would have designed it totally, totally differently so that it would be a bit easier to manufacture. But they want it this
Manufacturability.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want it this way, so they're getting it this way. The problem with that is I now have to go buy a stupid dovetail cutter I don't want, so that I can make this. I can make this work.
Did you quote that into the job?
I didn't because I thought I had a dovetail cutter, but yeah, I don't.
That always happens.
Yeah, so I need a dovetail cutter because I've got to make some dovetail work holding for some upcoming jobs. So I need a 45-degree dovetail cutter. It's not really optional. So I'll go buy a high speed steel one today because I can get one quickly and cheaply. And then I'm going to order an insert one from our good friends over in China. And that'll take. The only reason I don't have a big one right now is because they haven't had stock the last couple times I've ordered. But they look like they're back in stock. So I'm going to attempt to buy one from them, and then that'll go in the
Hmm.
slow EO for material prep because I've got a product line hopefully coming online by the end of Q1 this year for one of my bigger customers, where it's an additional like 250 to 500 parts a month, and that needs to be done on Dovetail. Otherwise, it's just going to be tedious.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
Q1, you sound so professional.
I
The
know.
dovetail, is that going to be material prep? So are you going to be using a dovetail vise, like a five-axis style
Yes. So I'm
vise?
gonna
Okay.
make I'm gonna make a fixture, basically just a plate that holds 4 or 5 parts, and then I'm gonna stack them up in my machine that I can have like 10 or 12 parts in the machine every time I hit go. Because
You can just
also the
walk away for
material,
hours and that thing's
that's
running.
it. Well, not really,
Yeah.
because that machine's bloody fast. So there, I'm gonna order. I'm gonna order material that's like not even. Sorry, just adjusting my microphone here. That's not even 200,000 long. 200,000. No, wait, hang on. Maths is hard. Um, 0.5 times 25.4. No, fuck. I cocked this up royally. Yeah, basically 5 millimeters longer than it needs to be, and then in
Hmm.
that 5 mils, I'll put a dovetail. Then I can hold it really reliably for op one. Go to town on it, and then op two will drop into soft jaws or into a fixture. It's like a little gas cap, but smaller.
Okay.
Yeah,
Little
so
cylindrical part.
yeah, a little cylindrical part. Well, it's got a hex on one side. So what I'll do is I'll hold it dovetail. I'll go to town, put the hex in, put the sunken section for the label. Then when I turn it
Hmm.
over, I can locate it and do all the machining, put a mark, and then I put it on its side. And I want the threaded. There's a side hole. The side hole needs to always be clocked to the threads exactly the same. That way, if they take one off and put one on, the cable always lines up to the same place.
Okay, so when it threads on, always lines up. Okay,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have the lead of the thread on the same
yeah,
exact location as the hole on the side.
that's the plan.
Got it. You gotta
Yeah,
clock it.
so yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna clock it. So what I'll do is when I machine the op two, I'll put an indicator in. Just I'll put a divot or something internally where it doesn't matter. That when I load it for op three, I make sure that's always facing the same direction.
Yeah, what do they call that? A witness mark? I've heard.
Yeah, witness or
Yeah,
yeah, something to orient with. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
Very
That's the
cool.
plan. I made
That's
samples
tricky.
of those a while ago, but yeah, unfortunately, that requires an operator with a brain because it needs to be located the correct way after op
Yeah,
two. But that's fine. That's not the end of the world. It's not a complicated thing. It's just something you need to pay attention to.
yeah, yeah. And how many of these are you wishing to make?
It should be between 250 and 500 a month.
Oh,
The
your
problem,
style of machining is so different than mine, like your
yeah,
quantity.
the issue there is it's like a $6 part. So it's not
Oh,
a,
wow, yeah.
yeah, it's not a particularly high cost part or high value part. It's just high quantity.
Hmm.
Like for those guys, everything I do, the most expensive part is like $6. A lot of the stuff
Wow,
is like 50 cents a part, but I do 500 of them at a time. So, and that
crazy.
500, the machine just runs. It runs for about a day and a half, and that's 500 of those little parts finished. So it's all about, on that with those customers, it's all about efficiency. And
They
every
just want as
time,
much as they can get as fast as they can get it.
well, I'm competing directly against China and Ukraine on that one. So they were buying stuff
Oh,
from
wow.
Ukraine, and then Ukraine got invaded, and all of a sudden they couldn't get stock. So they realized it's a
Hmm.
shit plan. Can we not have this made locally? And when they inquired, apparently no one could do it locally. And then I was there making prototypes for them for another project. And they were like, "Oh, could you possibly manufacture this?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Let me take a sample. I'll make you drawings and I'll give you a quote." And yeah, I picked up. I'm now their main supplier, which is really really stupid of them, but that's their problem. No,
That's really
they
great to
only
work.
have they only have the
Yeah.
one supplier. It's a really shitty idea, but yeah, I'll happily take their money. I have no intention of dying, but yeah, you never know what happens.
Yeah, you never want to put all your eggs in one basket, but hey, when it's me, I'll
Yeah,
hold the basket.
100%. Yeah, I mean they don't even have drawings for their parts. Like I own their drawings because they gave me samples. I made drawings for manufacturing. I didn't quote
Oh,
them for
you had to
drawings.
reverse engineer everything that
Yeah.
they give you?
So
Okay.
I reverse engineered and we ended up making some significant changes to make it easier to manufacture and a bit of a better product, quite frankly. Like they were having failures after about a month and a half after installation. So I had a look
Hmm.
at it. I'm like, okay, this thing's got one rivet. Let's up that to 5 rivets. Put 5 rivets. Then it was used to take us forever to do the assembly. We used to do 25 of them in an hour because we would put them together, drill pop rivet one hole, then drill the other 5 holes, put another 4 pop rivets in, and then stack it. Then I made a swaging machine to crimp them. We now do 25 in 6 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we crank them out now. And I said to them, listen, we can crimp these things together, and your price is going to drop by, I think it was like $1 on the assembly. They were like, oh, cool, it's a better price. And so far, I don't believe we've had any of the same failures
Yeah,
because
like
instead,
Jamie,
yeah,
I've always said you're a man that wears many hats. You're an
yes,
electrical engineer, you're an engineer, you're a consultant, manufacturing consultant.
yeah,
You do a lot, man.
I do all the things.
Yeah,
But also, yeah,
very well
that's
rounded.
I'm adequate at most things, but I wouldn't say I'm great at any of them.
What's the old saying? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, is better than master of one.
That's
But yeah, it's like yeah, the being jack of all trades also like you don't have time to actually deep dive and focus on one thing and get really really good at it.
yeah,
That's the
that's kind of boring,
only
anyways. Like if you're an
it is.
EDM guy and all you do is EDM, EDM, EDM,
Yeah, if
you
you're
think you'd
EDM
kind of want to
guy,
branch out a little bit.
yeah, if you're an EDM guy, my heart goes out to you. I used to be one of them. It was
Whew.
fucking horrid. No, it was the
Oh,
worst. Like you would, I'd get an SMS or a message at like 2 in the morning, get in my vehicle and drive through to the workshop to go deal with a wire break.
wow.
Yeah,
Sounds like a
my wife.
blast.
Yeah, my wife hates those machines. Like if I go to my one customer and she's with me and she hears the wire cutter beeping, she starts to freak out. She's like, "Oh shit, this again," because she used to have to come with me, or she used to want to come with me in the middle of the night, just so it wasn't me by myself in an industrial area. Yeah, because the
Nobody
industrial
else was there was
areas,
qualified to fix the wire.
no one was there. It was at like we didn't used to run night shift, so I used to set stuff up and then go home, and then I'd get a message, hop in my vehicle, drive back like 20 minutes to work, go and
Oh,
fix
I
the
night
wire
shift.
break. Yeah, so I had keys for the workshop, so I'd go and turn the alarm off, open the back, go in quickly, reset it, get back in my vehicle, drive home. Like it would be an hour, and 40 minutes of that was driving.
Very fun. On call.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was horrible. That's why I don't have a wire cutter. Not only because they're expensive, but because I don't want to have to deal with a needy little machine.
It's better than being a lathe guy, though. I will say that.
Yeah, lathes. I say that,
You
and
put
I
it very
have two
well.
of them. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
two of them, but yeah,
What did you
but
say?
yeah,
You said it's an acquired taste.
yes. No, lathes are. I look at some of the guys that I know that run lathes. I'm like, hey guys, you do some really dodgy stuff here, but I mean they make it work. I just couldn't really be bothered. Like I do my production stuff on lathes. I don't like lathe job shopping. I do it every now and again, and I don't do tool and die work anymore because of that. Like I did a bunch of tool and die work last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't like if the guy who comes with the stuff, I'm like, sorry, I can't assist because I end up standing at the lathe for like 3 or 4 days straight doing his stupid turning work when it's really just not worth what I'm charging for it. And if I try to charge more, he doesn't get the order because
Totally get it.
he's actually running a production job. If he breaks a single insert drill in a month, that's all his profits from that job gone. He's
He
running
has a
way too
terrible business
close.
model.
Yeah. The thing is he got the contract because he was told this is the price you need to meet. He met the price, but it's way too tight.
He's
I'm like,
shooting
no,
himself in the foot.
exactly. Because
He needs to
guaranteed
diversify.
something will go wrong at some point in the month. And
Of
there's
course.
your yeah. And that was so I don't think I told you the story. Okay, we're gonna do a bit more backstory quickly.
Story
So
time, Jamie. Come on.
story time again. So this time last year, I decided I need another spindle. So I went to a place down in Mayerton. It's about 25-minute drive from here to have a look at a
Mm-hmm.
Leadwell robo drill style machine. So I went, had a look at the machine, said to them, please send me a quote. I need to organize financing. I went there, we powered on, I checked the machine. I then realized I forgot to check how much memory it had. So I hopped in my vehicle the next morning, drove down there again, turned on, checked how much memory. I'm like, not the most memory, but I'll make it work. Old Finnook controller. That afternoon, I get a phone call. Yeah, no, sorry. Someone put a deposit on the machine. It's been sold. I'm like, seriously? I've been waiting 2 days for a quote. I would have put a deposit if you told me I needed to. Anyway, these clowns, I then bought my LK somewhere else. But my customer bought a lathe from these clowns. A big, I'm making Leadwell sound bad now. These guys are clowns. Leadwell are good machines. It's just, Leadwell are really good machines, just not from
It's the
these specific.
distributor. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's a second-hand machine dealer. And they are,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So this
Clowns.
machine arrives on my customer's floor with a bar feeder that doesn't interface with it because he bought a bar feeder from them as well. The chuck didn't clamp, so they had to pull the chuck off and put a new chuck on. Then the tooling blocks on the turret were all clapped out, so they had to make new tooling blocks. We
Oof.
then now my customer hasn't run a Fanuc lathe in a long time, so he's like, "No, please, can I come through and just help him get this thing going?" So I go. Now I'm doing this like after hours, so he would work the full day. Then like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, I would shoot through there and would work until like 10, 11 o'clock at night because then no one's bugging him, no one's bugging me. I go through, we spend like 4 hours getting it all working, starting to make test cuts, getting the program checked out. Go there the next day, same story. Third day, we threading and we had to relieve the threading bar because it's a rope thread, so it's like a round profile thread. We had to relieve the boring bar so that we could get enough clearance to get all the way in. And we're running, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like the first part's good, then the second part's not. And I'm looking and it's rubbing the boring bar. I'm like, this should clear with like millimeters. Why is it rubbing? Now we're like 12 hours into setting this machine up. I grab an indicator, put it on the tooling block. I'm like, okay, maybe the tooling block's poked. Check. Nope, tooling block's skew. Okay. Index the turret, put it on the turret itself. Index it. The whole turret was skew. So I say to him, phone these clowns tomorrow, have them come and square the turret. So the guys come through, they square the turret up, had to square it up, we get it running again. So we get production running, and then his drills are wearing out. So I go through there again, we put an indicator in, we sweep the bores, because now all we've been doing is basically touching the tool off. We haven't really been like indicating the bores. We're being lazy. Indicate the bore, the whole turret is low by 0.5 mm. So low
Oh,
by
from
20
the
thou.
spindle.
So
Oh,
what had
wow.
happened is they had crashed the turret at some point, and
Mm-hmm.
they just bought this machine, cleaned it, checked it, powered on, and sold it. They hadn't actually done a full check on it. So he made a shimmed the turret up. So eventually we get this machine running, and he's running production. And on like the second day of production, he's like 6 or 7 hours into production, and the turret doesn't lock. So you cycle the power index, turret locks. And he would run for like 30 minutes. Next thing, turret would go to do a tool change, wouldn't lock, disable the motor, and it would pivot down again. So he finds the manual that came with this thing. It says in the manual for the turret, if you crash the turret, you need to replace the following components: the locking pin, all the seal sets. Like there's a whole list of shit that's got to be replaced. These guys had done none of it. So he got them out. They stripped the turret. They allegedly fix it, put it back together. No, you can run. He runs 4 hours in, stops locking again. But this is now like, this has been on his floor for 5 or 6 months at this point. He's meant to deliver 4,000 parts a week, and he can't. So now his customers wanting to pull the order, he's had to pay the machine payments for this machine, even though it isn't running. Eventually, So when they basically got him to sign a document saying the machine is working before it was delivered. Like they wouldn't deliver until he signed the document for the financing
Mm-hmm.
saying that the machine was in good working order. So they wanted to just leave him with the machine. He eventually threatened to sue them, and they took the machine and put another machine on his floor. And now he's running production. But yeah, these oaks down in Maton are a bunch of fucking clowns. Shit, I
He
shouldn't have
had
sworn.
he
Oh
had to
well.
literally threaten lawsuit for them to
Yeah.
make it right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
And then they're like,
Yeah,
no, we'll fix the machine and we'll bring it back. He's like, yeah, you'll bring it back, put it on my floor, and I'll run both machines for 3 months until you can take away the good machine. But yeah,
yeah. That old machine
absolute
has to prove
clowns.
itself.
Yeah, absolute
Yeah.
clowns. Like his business was in a good place financially, and this nearly wrecked him.
Yeah, they sold him a trash machine. You
Yeah,
know what
they
I mean?
sold him literally a trash machine. It's like not even that it was
Yeah.
just a dud, it was trash.
It was crashed. Yeah, a bunch of times.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
didn't
it
replace
was.
the locking pins and all the
There's
components
a
that
lot of
need to be
yeah,
replaced.
there's a lot of that goes on here, where guys resell machines without thoroughly checking them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I bought my new machine, my new to me used machine,
Yeah,
um, I got the offer from them. We came to a price, and then before I even gave them any money, I told them, "Hey, I'm going to buy a flight up to Minneapolis. I spent another $1,000 of my own money to go up there and, check the machine." Now, this was really funny because when I flew up there, I brought with me in a case like a spindle bar, like a
yeah,
test bar. Have you seen those test bars at
yeah. I
hostels?
know. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm going through the airport with TSA, and I've got my little bag, with my dial indicator, test indicator, and the mag stand in it, and a spindle test bar. And the security people at the airport were like, "What is this?"
yeah,
I had to like try and attempt to explain what it was. And they're like, "Okay, hold on a second." And then he's like, "Is it a tool?" I said, "Yeah, it's a tool. You can consider it that. It's for calibration." And he said something really funny. I guess this is literally a rule with the TSA security is that if you have a tool that is longer than 12 inches, it
yeah.
has to be in a checked bag.
Yes.
So I guess my tool was too big. Me and my girlfriend were
Nice.
joking about that.
Well, I
But
ran so we used to travel with calibration rings. So it was a tool steel ring that had been hardened and ground to a specific diameter. We used to travel with them
mhm.
in our laptop bags. We had each of us were going down with 3 of them in our bags, and we had done it many times. And The one morning, the TSA agent decided, nope, not today, and made me take my laptop out my bag, put it in my colleague's bag, put all the rings into my laptop bag, and go and check it in. We had flown
Oh
with them
wow.
many times. Oak was on a power trip, and he's like, nope, you will not take this onto the aeroplane today. Yeah,
Okay.
the TSA or the airport security annoys the hell out of me. But anyway, back to your story.
Yeah, yeah, and this is the weekend right before Thanksgiving in America. We have a holiday, Thanksgiving. Anyone American knows about it.
Yeah, no, I know
So
Thanksgiving about Thanksgiving.
yeah, yeah, and so this is like one of the biggest travel days of the year. You know, the lines to go through the security check are just massive, and I'm carrying this spindle test bar and all these indicators, and I had to check the bag. Long story short, I went up there. The people at the machine reseller place picked me up from the airport. They were really cool. And I just spent the day, taking the weigh covers off the machine, inspecting the weighs, putting the test bar in the spindle, putting the indicator on it, checking the run out, going up and down in Z, turning the spindle. And
Yeah,
like if anything was wrong with that machine, I was not gonna buy it. And I even
yeah,
brought like a bunch of cash with me. That was the spindle bar was the funny part. I actually had a
yeah,
big amount of cash on me, so I was kind of nervous if I was gonna get pulled aside with it and they were gonna take it
yeah.
for some reason and I'd have to explain it. That was the only thing
Uh,
I was really worried about. But yeah, I checked everything on that machine. I checked
yeah,
the wiper seals for the ways, the way covers, everything, and everything checked out. So
yeah, you've got to
yeah.
do your due diligence on machines. Like, so when I bought the LK, so I phoned my mate Dylan down in Cape Town, and I'm like, hey,
Hmm.
bro, you've got this machine because I phoned him after that deal fell through. And I said, what do you have on the floor? What are you bringing in for Machine Tool Africa? Because we had that coming up last year. So I was like, what are you bringing in? Maybe I must just wait and get something after the show, like get a good show discount.
The
And
demo
he's like, no,
model,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like, no, no, there's an LK on the floor. Let me go see what the story is. So he went to his boss, and his boss like, no, no, it's a second-hand machine, 2019, whole spiel. I'm like, sweet. This was on like a Friday. I'm like, I will see you on Tuesday because flights on Mondays are expensive. So I was like, I'll see you on Tuesday morning. Pick me up at the airport. So I flew down. He picked me up at the airport. We went. I used all his equipment because I mean they're a machine reseller. So
Hmm.
indicator in the taper, checking backlash, had the way covers back. Like the machine was in flipping good condition. Powered it on, played
Hmm.
around with it a little bit, and then I was like, okay, no, 100%. And yeah, that thing was on the floor the following, well, I think like a week and a half later.
Oh, was
Had
that
it
your
on my,
place?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I paid them a deposit, like what is it, like 15% deposit. They put it on my floor and I started making parts, and then I paid the balance once I was tax registered so I could claim back the sales tax.
The write-off, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no ways I'm
Very
going to let
cool.
the government have any money they don't deserve, and they deserve no money at all.
Especially when there's rolling blackouts with
Yeah,
electricity.
exactly. Nah,
They already
I
took
will
the
give.
money and they didn't spend it.
Yeah, I give them as little money as I can
I love how you
because
always
it's
explain it. You said it's because Africa.
yeah, because Africa, like they
Yeah.
get the bare minimum that I have to give them, and that is all they will ever get from me.
At least you're
Like no,
giving, man.
yeah, well, that's the problem. Is there's 5% of the population that are giving the government any money. The rest just live on the money from the other 5%. Like our tax base is tiny. And the problem is every year it shrinks because everyone who can leave does leave.
That is very, very true. I had a best
But
friend from Johannesburg and they
yeah,
left to America. Yeah.
yeah. No, everyone who can
Yeah.
leave does leave. But all
Yeah.
I see it as, it gives me more opportunity.
Hey, yeah, it's more for you. Hmm.
Yeah. The more
More
people
work,
that leave,
more
the less
opportunity.
competition I have. Yeah, less
Yeah.
competition there is. That's the way I see it. But yeah.
Yeah. So
There's
are you looking forward to anything in the future? You want to talk about what you have planned?
so I'm working on the pallet system, which has been on my Instagram every now and again, and I run it. But yeah, that's what I'm working towards now. I've got that big job that I was busy with for those rings and the molds. I've got to make one little mold this morning, and then that job is out, and I can go back to working on important things.
That's all the
Um,
same customer. Okay.
yeah, the mold and the rings are all one customer. He's coming past at 11 o'clock this morning to pick up. So
Very
I've got
cool.
to make a few little bits and bobs for that job still, but I want to switch the machine over to running steel because I need to make a grinding fixture for the pallet systems, and then I can grind the parts and I can actually start assembling them. Um, and then I've got a bunch of other steel bits and bobs. Like I need to make the dovetail clamping system. I need to make a wire cutter for my one customer. Basically, take a 15 kg roll of 420 stainless welding wire and chop it into 6 millimeter long pieces.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh, I've
whole
ran a
roll.
job like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm making him a machine that just you literally feed the material in and it just goes brrrr and cuts like 1,000 pieces a minute. So
Wow.
I made a version one of it, but the feeding was unreliable. So now I'm going to make him a new version, and then hopefully simplify the design a little bit, and then it should do what it needs. So I was feeding with a cam. I'm now going to just have a cutter, and I'm going to have it push with a spring-loaded feeder. So every time the cutter comes down, the feeder runs back, and as it goes up, it spring pushes the material forward, chops it, pushes it back, and just feeds the material automatically.
That reminds me of those wire spring factories in China. Those machines that make springs.
Yeah, those are
They push
super
the wire
aggressive.
through and they chop it and they go really, really fast.
Yeah. No, they
Wow.
yeah, I'm running a little servo on there because I had it laying around. It does 4,000 RPM, and then I'm running it. It's a 2 Newton meter servo that's running through a 4-to-1 gearbox because well, that's what I had laying around, and that's enough to
You
shear
have
to
that
like.
just laying around. I love that.
Yeah, I bought it. I bought it for a job 2 years ago that I did for my brother's company. So they do fishing rods. So he's part of the development team for Assassin fishing rods. And what they were doing is they would have a bunch of rods like blanks developed in China, have them test, send them the videos, then ship the rods here. They would then test them with like a 2 liter bottle of water, see how the rod bends, like get one of the warehouse staff to hold the rod so they could look at the angle of how it bends, make notes, send it back to ship the rods back to China with notes, have them develop new ones, send them back. Like they were spending a stupid. I think they're spending like $1,000 on shipping for every batch because now these things are a couple meters long that they're having to ship with DHL.
Hmm.
So they had me build them a fishing rod tester that they strap the rods into, and then it's effectively just a linear axis that would drive up. And they had an anchor point that was on it's a little trolley on casters with like 20 kgs of weight and a load cell.
Hmm.
So they could actually set it to say go to 5 kgs of load. This thing would run until it hit 5 kgs and then stop, or they could manually
Non.
jog it. So I built this whole thing and I bought the
Yeah.
gearbox for that and didn't need it. So it was sitting in my industrial Lego box. I've got a box labeled industrial Lego. It's literally just all
I gotta
the
come. I
industrial
gotta come
stuff.
visit South Africa and see your Lego box.
Yeah,
I bet
I've
you
got
have all kinds of cool stuff.
I have way too much stuff in my workshop. But yeah, you're always welcome to come through to sunny South Africa. You'll feel like you're rich when you're here because everything's super cheap.
Live like a king.
Yeah. Well, that's how my brother put it. Like we're discussing immigrating and whatnot. He's like, yeah, you can live like a king among the savages, or you can live like a savage among the kings. Because like if one of us goes overseas, we are going to be on the bottom end of the pay scale. Whereas here we're on the top end of the pay scale, and life is pretty cheap. So yeah, like compared to the US, we make like next to no money, but we live really well because
You
life is
seem like
cheap
you're
here.
doing pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
relative wages to the cost of
yeah. Like
living. Yeah.
the cost of living here is basically through the floor. Like, and what we pay the domestic workers and gardeners and things like that is basically for free. Like, it's really
That's
cheap.
crazy.
Yeah. And the problem is you can't
Very
pay them a
cool.
lot more, otherwise they start getting targeted in their communities for having too much money.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Same thing in Madagascar. Like Madagascar, we went there on honeymoon. We paid the lady who cleaned the house and made us 3 meals a day. We paid her $4 a day. And you
That's
can't pay her
just
more than that, and the community starts targeting her.
wow. They're
No.
kind of like crabs in a bucket, bringing everyone down, right?
Yeah.
You know, like when you put crabs in a hot pot, and one starts climbing up to freedom to
Yeah. They
save
pull him
itself,
down.
the other crabs pull it back in.
Yeah.
So
No,
nobody can succeed and get money because everyone's going to target the person. You know what I mean? It's a
Africa's a
self-sabotaging.
yeah. Africa's a different beast. Like the Oaks don't want to see other people succeed, even if it's their
Yes.
like
Yes.
yeah, they don't want to see other people succeed. We must all be at the bottom together. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that's
But
terrible, man.
yeah, like that's why I kind of insulate myself from that side of the community. Like I really couldn't be bothered.
Okay, so non-destructive testing with the fishing rods. You had
Yes,
the gearbox laying around,
yeah, I bought
and
it in
now
case
you're
I needed
using
more
it.
torque. Now I'm using it to cut
Okay,
wire. Yeah, so
cut
I
the
needed it.
wires.
I needed it in case the 12 Newton meter stepper wasn't strong enough. In
Hmm.
retrospect, I could have got away with like a 2 Newton meter stepper on that thing, because it's literally just lifting a load of like 10 kilos. But
Would that
I'd
be like a
rather
NEMA
I could have
stepper?
got away with a NEMA 23. I went with a NEMA
Yeah.
43 closed loop stepper.
Oh
Like
wow. Okay,
I
closed
was
loop.
riding the thing up and down. I was literally standing on it and riding it up and down, and the motor didn't have a problem.
Yeah, that's a little overkill if you think a
Yeah,
23 is good enough.
yeah. When in doubt, make it stout.
Yeah. Yeah, I got 23s on my little bench mill. They work
So
good.
the Slowio runs closed loop 23s. It runs a 2.2 Newton meter on X and then 3 Newton meters on Z and on Y.
Very cool.
I actually ran, so I've got gas shocks on the Slowio to balance the head, and we
Oh,
learned
what's his name? The guy that makes the pens.
Kurt.
Kurt. He did
Yeah,
the same thing. I
control.
think he modeled
Yes,
that after yours.
we may have had some discussions about that.
Yes.
Yeah, so he put gas struts on his. So the issue you run into there is they can do about 3.5 meters a minute. Anything faster than that, and the gas strut actually starts to limit it
Slow
starts
it
to
down.
inhibit your speed. Yeah, it starts to slow
Yeah.
you down. We put one on it. So after I did my machine at work, we needed to have a Z axis on a measuring head, not drop when the machine depowered, because obviously it can hit stuff. So we put a gas strut and the
Hmm.
guy forgot to turn the rapids down. He bent the gas strut in half with a servo motor that was the size of a NEMA 23 with a Siemens servo motor.
How is that
He sent it
possible?
up. He sent it up
How?
and it bent it. No, those Siemens motors can get overdriven quite heavily. Like its constant load is 2 Newton meters. Its peak is like probably in the range of 10.
10 newton meters
10
peak.
Newton meters on a ball screw. It's some serious force.
Wow, and it bent the strut in half.
It bent it. It folded it in half because he tried to just go
Wild.
at full speed up, and this thing said nope and bent out the way. Yeah, we used to do some really interesting stuff where I used to work. I mean, I put braking systems on a Z-axis as well. That when the motor's powered off, a pneumatic cylinder would extend, and we had a row of bolts in the face. So the cylinder would extend and drop between the bolts wherever it was, just so it would drop like 10 or 20 millimeters, but not enough to crash into whatever it was doing.
Wow,
Yeah,
good
we did
idea.
some really sketchy stuff there. I mean, we
Yeah, the
try to
old
do
Haas machines, didn't the old Haas machines have like a hydrogen or helium,
nitrogen, I
uh,
think.
nitrogen? That's what
Yeah,
it is.
nitrogen spring
Y-
balance
yes.
or gas balance. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have something similar in mind for a combat robot.
really.
Yeah,
Nitrogen, the combat robot?
I want to make a 225-gram flipper that'll throw someone into the roof, which is not an easy feat. So I was thinking of using a pre-charged um, pneumatic cylinder effectively as my spring. and then
There
I
you
can
go.
adjust the amount of spring force that I have pre-fight and dial in so that I can just load it. That my actual crankback system is right at the limit of what it's capable of. That way I can get the most amount of force out of my forward movement.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it's yeah, designing something that's that small is not an easy task, and then
Yeah, yeah. What
manufacturing
is
it
that
isn't
gonna be
easy.
like? Like when you, what's that called on the top of the spindle where you press the button and it moves the thing,
Oh yeah,
something bar.
your so that's a pneumatic over hydraulic system usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it gonna
So
be
I'm
something
gonna
like that?
no, I'm just gonna basically build a little cylinder with an accumulator tank and a spring, but all in one little billet, so that I can pre-charge the accumulator, and as you push the you can effectively just compress the air.
Oh,
Um,
you're gonna machine the little air bladder cavity into one block in the same assembly?
in the same
Okay.
assembly, so it's ultra
Okay.
compact. Yeah.
Very
No,
cool.
the pneumatic over hydraulic systems are really sweet for the ATCs. My Slowio uses a 3-to-1 lever on an 80 millimeter cylinder, and the LK, as far as I know, is a mechanical drawbar. So the Z actually
Drawbar,
drives up.
yeah.
Yeah, it drives up and pushes a lever, and that's what triggers the drawbar on the LK.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about, like with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that take the bench mill that has like an R8
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah,
they
then
put
they have the multi-stage cylinders.
the air cylinder with the little lever that goes down and
Yeah,
pushes down on the drawbar, and you can just stick tooling in and out of the spindle, like a
yeah.
little contraption like that.
Yeah, I've had two different versions. I had one, I actually made it a double acting cylinder. I took a 50 millimeter Festo cylinder, cut it in half, made an intermediary, and made a double acting cylinder for the Slowio. But that used to act over a lever. So I had a lever bolted next to the spindle that would pivot, and I would push
Yeah.
up and it would push my spindle, my drawbar down. And then I changed
Yes.
that for an 80 mil cylinder with a 3-to-1 ratio on that as well. Also, I couldn't,
Very cool.
when I designed the spindle head, I put the spindle too close to the motor. I should have come further out. So I can't actually fit a normal cylinder for BT30 clamping and unclamping. There just isn't enough space.
Totally get it.
Yeah, stupid design decisions there.
So is it your spindle motor or your Z-axis drive that's too close to your spindle?
They're all super close. So the
Okay.
spindle motor and the Z-axis drive have like half an inch of clearance, and then the cylinder to the spindle motor also half an inch of clearance, but it sits like the center of the cylinder probably sits an inch and a half in front of where the spindle is.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make a lever to deal with that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to make one of those for mine. I just never got around to it.
Yeah,
I
super
just,
super useful. The only issue with
oh
that
my
is
gosh, yes.
the straight shank R8 stuff. If it starts to pull out, it then pulls out. Like as soon as it comes off that face contact, it just goes to shit really quickly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Like
TTS, man.
yeah,
Woo!
TTS. Even Cliff from Thread Express. He runs production, or used to run production on his Tormox, and he was saying the TTS interface is really good because it's a dual contact. So you got face contact and shaft contact. It's really good
Mm-hmm.
until as soon as it pulls off of that face, it just fails because
Yeah.
then it's not rigid anymore and it just starts pulling out further and further. And I
Oh
used
yeah, it's
to
happened to me.
when I used to run when I used to run steel, I used to tighten the drawbar extra half a turn manually. So every time I put my steel tool in on TTS, I would tighten the spindle an extra quarter turn, run the 6 mil end mill, then I would loosen it, then take it out, put my other stuff back in, and like the smaller tools I would run just with the pneumatic drawbar.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I
Yeah.
switched that over to BT30 so that I didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I would love to switch my little mill to BT30. I don't even know how to do all that. I guess you would just have to
Yeah,
replace the entire spindle
the whole
assembly.
the whole spin. No, you just
Yeah.
do the core. So
Yeah.
you'd have to make a
Just the
drawing of your
core.
spindle core, and then you'd
Mm-hmm.
have someone who knows how to make it. Because I learned that people who think they're good at things are not. Um, they had to grind mine twice because it had mad run out, and then I ended up regrinding it myself in the bearings in the machine, and then it
Oh
was
yeah, we talked about
okay.
this.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
great, but it was okay. But
Hey,
yeah,
you're
BT
not
30.
NASA. You're not splitting hairs.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like if I don't have to measure it, I don't. Like a lot of the work I do by design, I don't measure. Like if I can throw a fourth hour tolerance on something, generally speaking, I don't need to measure it. Like on the LK, we can hit that pretty consistently.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know that
So
was a 2019 machine. That's really nice.
yeah, it's pretty new, like as far as machines
Yeah.
go. So yeah, 2019, the guy who bought it ended up getting cancer and then selling it back to the agents. So
Have you had
unfortunately,
any issues making payments with that, or you just everything's been going smooth? It pays for
uh,
itself.
it generally pays for itself. Our cash flow has been a bit shot since November. Um,
Oh yeah,
we
machine
yeah
shop
we
life.
had a yeah we had a we put a lot of time and effort into an order or planning for an order that never came through. The money got stolen because we live in Africa, and that put us on the back foot since November. I've actually got to phone a customer today and say, "Hey, where's my money?" They There's $1,500 outstanding, and I'm like, "Can I have my money, please?" They thought they had paid a deposit on a job when they had actually settled an invoice that they apparently hadn't captured or something. So I'm like, "Here's your statement, friends. Best you sort your shit out. I need my money." I was expecting that in at the end of December, and yeah, now we 7 days into the new year, and I'm like, "Can I have my money, please? You're really ruining my cash flow here."
Yeah, that's really key with month to month business
Yeah,
costs and
like,
owning
and those
machine
guys
shop.
are the only guys that are on a 30-day account, and they're about to lose that privilege
Yeah,
because my
they better
tolerance,
pay
yeah.
up, or they're gonna lose you as a good vendor.
Well, they're going to lose me as a 30-day account. I'm their only vendor, so I'll be like, "Hey guys, guess what? You're now cash up front again. Well done, you fucked
Hmm.
up."
Have they done
So
that to you before, or is this like a
no,
new phenomenon?
this is the third accounts lady I've had to deal with in the last year. So I think it's just an accounting issue, and they'll get their stuff together. It's just until they get their stuff together, it's a bit tedious.
You know what, man? The bigger the company, I've noticed, the more issues like that happen.
Yeah. No, the
There's,
more people you have to deal with. But it's getting to the
yes.
point now where I'm going to CC the CEO in, because I'm like, I deal with the CEO on a personal basis. Like I do a bunch of I've got like 5 or 6 projects active with them. So I
Uh
know
huh.
he's not going to want me to get pissed off about this. So if I don't get a response by like 10 o'clock this morning, I'm just going to forward him the email I sent yesterday with all the statements attached. Say, please, can you deal with this? Because I'm getting very, very over this now. And hopefully he'll just go and light a fire under the accounts people.
Yeah.
Because it looks to
Um.
me like someone forgot to capture an invoice. I don't know how,
Yeah.
because they paid the exact
Convenient.
amount for the previous invoice and they think
Hmm.
it's a deposit on the following invoice. And I'm like, you guys don't do deposits anymore. What's going on? So hopefully they sort their dumb shit out, because it's now affecting other jobs.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me before, where it was some kind of clerical error or there was some mix up, and
Yeah,
I had to break it down and explain it to him. I said, the survival of my business, as small as it is, really
is
depends
yeah,
on you guys paying me for my work that I did for you.
no,
And
exactly,
you're like some massive company. I would really appreciate it if we can sort
yeah,
this out as soon as possible.
no, 100
And they
percent.
eventually
Like
came through.
yeah, what they pay me every month is pocket change compared to their turnover. So like, just pay it, please. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, I
Because
don't know
they
why
want to place
they do
they
that.
want to place like I think it's about a $5,000 order every month going through the year. That's what they're claiming, and they want to place that. I'm now thinking, hey, I've got to put up for all that material, and if you guys are going to stuff me around with payment, that's going to put me like in a really really bad position.
Yeah. You
But
can
yeah,
make
hopefully
a clause or like some kind of agreement with them to where on future orders they have to make a deposit on material before
they
you.
used to they used to do deposits, but The material cost on their job is so low that I can actually bankroll it, and I don't mind bankrolling it because it means
Yeah,
when their money comes in, there's none of it has to go out. It's all can just go straight into the business to cover running costs and things like that.
I'd
So
be
I
careful
kind
with
of
that though.
yeah, no. I know guys who've gone out of business because they
They can go. That is
yeah.
exactly my next point. Was they can go out of business and then in the middle of an
Well,
order, and they can stick you with
yes. No,
that job.
I've got a customer who his business went he went out of business because he was doing a job. It was a recurring job. They sent a PO. He did uh, sorry, doing maths again. About $50,000 worth of work for them, and then
Hmm.
they took delivery and they just didn't pay and ended up for about 4 months not paying, and that put him out of business. But his business was also running with a hell of a lot of debt. All their machines were financed, all their vehicles were financed. Whereas I've got one machine that's financed and a generator that's financed. Like I try and keep my costs as low as possible and
That's
my debt
the
as low as
best thing you can
possible.
do as like a small machining operation.
Yeah,
I know Curtis and Rebecca from MilSpec always talk about that, and it's like the most true thing ever. Even
yeah,
on all the forums and groups for machining that I've talked to, they say, man, you want to own as much of your stuff as possible. Leasing stuff and renting is like a killer for
yeah.
businesses, especially in
No,
this
100%.
industry.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just it
so I
pushes
was,
your overheads up. Like I keep getting asked, when am I going to go into an industrial space? I'm like, never ever. As it is with the
yeah,
way our rental agreement is worded, the business rents the garage from my mother-in-law. I live in the house for free. Like the lease
yeah,
agreement is for the garage only. Just so happens that I live in the house as well, but not the point. Like it's worded that I can claim that all from the business. And if I can't, if for some reason cash flow's problematic, I go say, hey, listen, mother-in-law, I'm paying you a little bit late this month. And she's like, okay, no worries. She doesn't mind.
very, very cool.
Yeah. Like it's yeah.
That's
I
smart.
try not to do that. I think I also got a bit complacent last year. Like for the first time in 2 years, for since probably May last year, I haven't really stressed about month end. It's been like, okay, there's enough money for everything that needs to be paid. And then I got a
Yeah,
bit complacent towards November, and that came back to bite me. Like
yeah, I
we
did
got a bit
too.
yeah, and that's something that we've learned from, and we won't let happen again. But
Yeah,
yeah, now it's a case of recovering from it.
yeah, I bought this new machine and I watched my checking account go from a very large number to
It's a
a
very small.
very low number. And it was
Yeah,
exciting and happy about the new machine, but it was extremely stressful. And I was having second thoughts, thinking, man, did I bite off more than I could chew here? Because then,
yeah,
I had the cost of like the electrician wiring up both the machines to the phase converter and making the plugs in the walls and the
yeah. All
rigging
the
to move it, all these other
all the
costs I
stuff you
didn't
forget
think of.
about. Yeah,
Yes.
those add up very,
And
very quickly, and people
oh
don't
my
think about
gosh,
them. Like I
you
got
think I
lucky.
would remember them from the first
Yeah, I got
machine, but
lucky
I didn't.
when my machine was put in. They put the rigging into the cost of the machine, so I paid them, and the
Yeah.
machine just pitched up. It was really nice. But then I had to buy the phase converter. That
Yeah.
was I think nearly $2,000
Yeah. Mine was
because I
about
bought
2 grand. Yeah.
yeah, I bought it from the same clowns who screwed me over. I bought it from them because that way I could get the warranty for it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, I had
Smart.
to wire that in, and yeah, all those little things just add up. I had to redo my garage doors. That was like I think that wasn't that bad. That was about $600 to have the doors
Oh, that's nothing.
fabricated. Yeah, no, but I
Hey, that's
also
a good thing about Africa.
well, no, I called in some serious favors there. Like my mate's got a fab shop, so I was like, "Listen, I need
Oh,
these
cool.
doors," and he did them for me at cost. Like he did them for me at what it cost him, and paying his guy who does the welding. So I got a really really
Very
good
cool.
deal there. But that like we've got a WhatsApp group. It's 5 guys in a garage, and that's we've got an architect, two industrial designers, a guy who does fabrication, and myself. So we all like if any of us get a job that is not in our wheelhouse. So like I need to go drop off a job tomorrow. Um, it was a sheet metal job. I had the laser cutting done, gave it to my mate. He did all the bending, and then it goes to powder coat. Whatever the profits end up being, we split 50-50. And that's the arrangement we all have on the group. If I can get the work, but it's in your wheelhouse. We do the job, you bill me for the job, and then whatever the profit is, we split.
Man, I love that. That's like a metal fabrication community of friends that help
That's
each
it.
other out. It's like a
Yeah.
little ecosystem. That
So
looks
we
so
all,
cool.
yeah, we all point each other, like all of us, except for the architect. We all work for ourselves. The architect
Hmm.
works for his mom as an architect, and then he's got a big CO2 laser. So if we need any big laser work, we just go to him.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's everyone. It's yeah, we all look out for each other, and it benefits everybody. It's also quite a cool group to just hang out with.
yeah. I'm sure you guys shoot the shit and have a lot
Yeah,
of
like
inside jokes and
100%. Like I'll
fun
go
to talk
visit
to.
them, and we'll go talk shit for an hour while they're working. Like if I need a weld, I have a TIG welder. They've got my bottle of gas because I'm not a welding shop. Now it's nice to
Yeah,
have a TIG welder, but for the 4 times a year that I need to TIG weld something, I get in my vehicle and I just drive to my mate's shop and go and weld it there.
very
Because
cool. I wish I
it's
had a
not
TIG welder.
it's thing is it's not what my core business is. Like I had a plasma cutter. I sold that when I got Bertha because I'm not a fabrication shop. It was super nice to have and you could do odds and ends, but I'm not a fabrication shop. If I need something fabricated, I phone my fabricator and have him do it.
Yeah,
Because
they
yeah,
have
doing
the press brake and the
that's
bar,
it.
the tubing benders and all that stuff.
They've got all the stuff for it and they're better at it than I am. Like when I do it, it's passable. Let's put it that way. Like I had the plasma cutter. I did the electrical enclosure on the Slowio, the rear electrical enclosure. I did that on my plasma cutter, and then I sold it before I did Bertha. And Bertha, I ended up just cutting leftover sheet metal with an angle grinder and TIG welding it together to make the console. Like you can do some really good stuff just with basic tools and sheet metal.
Yeah, Dremel with the cutoff wheel and
100%. And the
an
thing
angle
is, with
grinder and
with sheet metal, if you make a stuff up, you just weld it up and try again.
yeah.
Like it's sheet metal, you can make something look reasonably
Powder
good pretty
coat
easy.
can hide a lot. A
Yes, it
grinder
can.
and some powder coat does wonders.
Grinder and paint make me the welder I ain't.
Yeah, well,
No.
I've never heard that one. That's the first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's a good one.
that is a very true statement when it comes to me. Like I welded the rack that's outside that holds my chip in, and it's like I've got my welder there. I stick weld if I need to. Like if I need to tack something together, I'll just quickly whack it together. But it's very much not part of my everyday equipment.
Yeah,
Like as it is, I'm trying to get rid of stuff out of the garage because I've got a bunch of stuff on shelves that doesn't need to be there. I actually want to start putting finished products on the shelf, like when I
yeah,
make
man. You
extra
have
stock.
no. I mean, I have ADHD. I'm pretty bad with my surfaces, but yours is like serious.
Well, my wife was helping me tap one of those plates yesterday. And I'm like, this is the only open surface that's not going to stuff this part up. I've got a granite plate next to the Slowio behind the door. Like that's the metrology section. And
Just
that was
knock
the
some
only
stuff off
place.
the tabletop and make a
Yeah.
spot.
No, I need to.
Just
So
sweep it off with your arm.
I had the table next to the LK, like in that walkway. I had that clean, and then I built that wire cutter, and now the table's ruined again. Like I went through and cleaned it, and then built the wire cutter and ruined it. So I need to go through and just clean it again. But it's also a case of I don't like cleaning, so I will find other things to do.
So the
Like
wire cutter thing is this kind of this new little
yeah, the
side
little wire.
hustle for your business where you're making little machine tools for
Oh no, this is just a
specific
wire. It's the
operations?
wire. It's the wire chopper for my. It's for
Yeah.
one of my customers. Yeah, yeah. No, it's just like a favor job. So when I went to IMTS, I went to visit my customer before I went. He's like, no, he's got some dollars. Here, just take like oh, fuck. I think it was. I was trying to think now. I think it was about $500 cash. He's like, yeah, take this. That way you don't have to draw money when you're there. We'll sort it out when you get back. So this is a bit of a favor job just to settle up that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, like, I've got a very good relationship with that customer. Like, he pays for stuff. I think I've got a project going on 2 years with him now that he paid me for in full, and I just haven't got around to sorting out. And
No, he's
it's
a cool
on my,
customer.
it's in my hand right now. And he knows if he needs it urgently, he asks, and it gets done urgently. but it's not super urgent. So it's a case of when I get time or when I get motivation to do it. The
I like
problem is
that.
like, yeah, it's paid for in full, so there's no real motivation to finish it.
I know the feeling. I have a
Yeah, but
few right now like that that I
yeah,
have to do eventually.
what I find is put it on a list, and I like ticking things off a list. So if it's on the list, then I can tick it off. Then I'll actually do it because then I can say, okay, it's done. I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah, it's very satisfying
Yeah.
feeling that, right?
So
I got
we just
whiteboards all over my office with lists on them and check
yeah.
boxes.
So
I
we
love
just set
putting
up
those little
Trello now.
check in there.
So
Yeah.
we set up Trello on a PC. You probably saw the PC that I've got on top of Bertha for doing my just managing what needs to be done, and that's
Yeah,
got
I
Trello.
meaning to ask you about that. You
Yeah.
also have a module on the outside of your LK, I think it is, and it's tracking your spindle uptime and your
Yes.
coolant level and all that.
So that
I
okay.
wanted
So
to know more about that.
yeah, okay, we can dive into that quickly. So I run Home Assistant. So I've got a Raspberry Pi 5 running Home Assistant that does my cameras around the house, does a couple odds and ends in the house, runs an ad blocker and my Plex server and stuff. And then I've got an ESP32 on the LK with a optocouple module. So
What's that?
when the LK, so basically it takes a 24-volt signal and drops it down to 3.3 volts for the ESP. So
What's an ESP?
it's effectively a light shining at a light sensor. So it's electrically isolated from the ESP.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got two channel one on the LK at the moment. That looks when you turn the LK on, I'd literally just piggybacked off the 24-volt power. So as soon as it turns on, I get a signal to say the power is on the LK. And then
Mm-hmm.
I found the relay that switches the green light on in the back of the panel. And I
Mm-hmm.
piggybacked on that. So when the green light's on, it tells the ESP that the LK is running. And then we did a bit
Oh,
of
okay.
maths, yeah, bit of maths and Home Assistant, and that calculates. So it uses a historical stat and logs how long the on state is for each of those, and then subtracts the one or divides the one by the other, and that gives me a percentage of spindle uptime. So yesterday was really bad; it was like 52% because I was doing all those big rings where I was having to make fixture, then program, then adjust, then indicate, and all
You're
that.
constantly setting up and putting
Yeah,
tools in and out and stopping it
so
and
yeah,
yeah.
that doesn't count as runtime. But
No.
once like it was at, I think it was down to like 20% when I
I
started
bet
that
that mold
mold
made up
yesterday.
for it though, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
literally.
mold. Mhm.
Because as Grimsmo says, what is measured is managed. So that's why I put it in there. But then that also, I've got a coolant sensor that I need to sort out. It's an ultrasonic sensor that looks at my coolant level. I need to change sensors because the sensor I've got, it's a car reverse sensor, ultrasonic sensor, but it's got a very wide beam right at the sensor. So it's actually hitting the housing that I made for it. So I've got a
You
different
need
one
to
I want to.
narrow the beam.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got a different
Okay.
one that can feed up to like a centimeter from it, so an inch from it. So I'm going to put that right low at the coolant tank, and hopefully that will resolve the issue. And then I've got four relays on that little ESP as well. One controls my lights that I added on the machine, and then two of them handle shutting down the phase converter and the fuck you Eskom box. So the one disconnects the machine from the phase converter, and the other one shut is the phase converter. So what I've got now is an automation setup. I say auto power down on my machine. It's got an auto power off button. I hit that. When it hits a M30, it turns the machine. It physically disconnects the disconnect at the back. It's really cool. Turns the machine off. Home Assistant sees that
It's
the
like a
machine is switched.
breaker.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
actually the big turny switch. It turns that off automatically.
Wow.
So the Home Assistant sees that the machine is switched off. It then waits, I think, 10 seconds or so, and then it switches off the disconnect box and then switches off the phase converter. So I can go to bed and have my machine turn off entirely.
Oh my gosh, dude, you're gonna have to make it how-to for us garage guys.
So I'm also, I kind of went a bit overboard. I put four relay modules in for the lights in my workshop. I haven't got into the roof and rewired all my lights. And then my clock. So I go on my phone, I say Iron Man mode, and it will turn on my lights in sequence across the workshop. in like 4 banks. So it goes doof, 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 doof on, and then turns the LK's lights on and the clock on as well. Like I kind of got carried away.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
still want
a
to add. So there's one more project I still need to do, and that's adding automation to my compressors. So I've got a pressure sensor, and I want to put the compressor that it turns on at like 6.5 bar and turns off at 7.5 bar. So it doesn't actually trigger the built-in switch. So it runs just before that built-in switch kicks in and turns on way sooner, so that my
the
air
pressure
pressure is more
switch.
constant. Yeah.
Okay, more
So
consistent. Yeah,
I'm basically gonna add a secondary one. If it fails, the built-in one will then work. Just
very cool.
as a redundant, like even the auto switch off. I've got 2 toggle switches. If they are not in the right position, the Home Assistant can do what it wants. It's not turning my phase converter off.
Okay.
So if I say auto power down, I then go toggle those switches to enable it. They just bypass the relays effectively.
It's kind of like those automated houses where you can say something and turn the lights
Yeah.
on, and the lights turn on, and it say 70 degrees, and the AC turns on. It's kind of
So
like
yeah,
that.
that's exactly it. My neighbor's got a smart speaker. I just can't bring myself to spend, I think it's like $50 for a smart speaker. And I'm like, nope, not happening. Because I'd like to
Yeah.
walk into the workshop in the morning, clap my hands and say, Daddy's home, and it just turns on. But I just
Yeah.
can't bring myself to spend that money on an
Oh
automated speaker.
wow.
But yeah, it can be done.
$50.
He His is set up like you sit in his lounge and say, turn on the light, and the light will turn on. Like he's got it
Yeah.
all. He's the one who actually got me into Home Assistance.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
So, are
he
you
helped with it.
documenting this process? Like, are you blogging or anything, or like writing it down, like how you're doing
Not
this,
really.
like automating your spindle time counter, and
No,
you just kind of do it for fun as you go?
I do it for fun as I go, and my Home Assistant makes a backup every like 2 days or so, just in case it decides to fail. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's backed up there. But yeah, I'll probably dive a bit deeper into it. I was thinking of doing a project because you can also run ESP Home just on the ESP board. You don't need the rest of the infrastructure, and then you can just connect to ESP Home via your phone and see the stats. You don't have to have all the other paraphernalia. So I'm going to chat to my neighbor about how to set that up.
Very cool.
Yeah, either that or because you can also put a screen on the ESP and then you can have it display your current uptime. Because to tie it into the machine is relatively simple. It's go find the relay that's switching your pedestal light on, and go just find 24 volts somewhere, and then that'll tell the ESP that the machine is on and that the machine is running, and then to calculate that out is relatively simple.
Very cool.
Yeah,
So you're kind of like splicing it.
yeah, I literally just put it
Yeah.
up, pushed or I unscrewed it, pushed another wire in by the light connection and screwed it closed again. And it shares a ground, so it was quite straightforward. I've also
Very
got it
cool.
now. I've got an automation setup called Notify Me. So I go into Home Assistant to my LK Systems page and I say Notify Me. And then once the LK stops for 15 seconds, it'll send me a notification to say that the machine has stopped. Because
That is so cool.
the green light turns off when it does a tool change. So I need it to be a bit like significantly longer than a tool change would be. And then
Oh,
this way also, if I'm doing tool break detection, it'll tell me if a tool breaks because the light turns off when it pauses at my tool break detect. So then
so
it'll
maybe you
pause and
you need
say.
to find a different relay than just the light.
So I was thinking of tying into the orange one, the orange light, which flashes if there's an alarm. But yeah, that entails extra effort, and I've only got a 2 channel opto board in there right now. So I was thinking I want to build a monitoring setup with 8 channels that I can tie into the MCO, and I can tie the into Bertha, and then I can monitor all my machines and their uptime because I'd be very curious to see what the uptime is on the MCO because that thing generally turns on, gets warmed up, and then runs production non-stop for the day. Like
I
there's
love that thing.
maybe a few minutes of downtime between bars, like if I don't look to see that the bar is finished. Because its light, unfortunately, is around the corner of the LK. So where I generally am in the workshop, I can't just look and see the lights. I've got to like put my head around a corner,
Yeah.
which is a bit annoying. I'm probably going to extend that light at some point and put it up in the middle of the workshop.
Yeah, I have that problem now with my old mill. I can't see the light because the spindle, when it's up, is blocking it.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you should be able to hear when that thing's not running.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. My old machines, spindle's quite a bit louder.
Yeah.
I don't know
My
why.
spindle, I was chatting to the guys yesterday saying, no, I did a steel job in July, and I removed 300 pounds of steel in 4 days on a 30 taper machine. My spindle is noticeably louder since that job.
Ooh, on the
Yeah.
LK.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a exploded diagram of the spindle of the whole head assembly, because I think it's just the coupling that's noisy, because it's a direct coupling to the spindle, and I would like to know where it is so I can see it and assess the quality of it. But yeah, I haven't actually climbed into the head of that machine yet.
The coupling
It's
from where the spindle motor interfaces with the actual spindle and
Yeah, because
links
it's
together and
direct.
drives it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that has taken a bit of a beating. So I would like to open
Okay.
it and have a look. I just haven't got around to it. I actually need to. I've got a few things to run on the machine. Then I want to shut down and just do some maintenance. Pull the way covers back. Check how under the way covers looks. Just give everything a once over. It'll take like an hour or two, and then I know the machine is good for the next year.
Very good. Yeah, you got to have that annual maintenance schedule.
Yeah, well, I had all the way covers off a while ago when I had that oil line break, the aftermarket oil line that the previous owner put in. So that snapped, and then I had all the covers back, and I rerouted the oil line correctly this time.
Yeah.
So that was 6 months ago. So it hasn't been that long, but I need to just do preventive maintenance. I need to open up the tool, take the tool changer cover off again, clean all of that out, and just give everything a good once over. Probably pull all my tools out as well and just check, just clean all their tapers, clean the spindle
Yeah.
taper, and just make sure everything's all good. Like I did
No
clean the
boogers
spindle
in there.
taper and retouched off all my tools for the mold so that everything was exactly the same Z plane. But I need to give
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
a
You don't get a chip on your taper of your tool holder, and
yeah. Like the LK's
you get
been really
gouging and
good with
stuff.
that. The only time I've had issues is running plastics actually, where the chips are
Really?
light enough that they stick to the taper. If coolant gets on the taper because they kind of exposed, if you get splashing coolant and then a piece of acrylic or POM gets stuck up there, then it can actually like I ruined the size on an acrylic job because I ran it, measured it a little bit undersized, just called the tool back and opened it and took off like four thou, and it turns out it was bigger by like 40 thou because there was a chip on the taper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't tell the
Yeah,
guys
those
and they
drill
didn't
tap
notice.
style tool changers.
Yeah.
All of your tooling is pretty exposed. It's not like an umbrella
Yeah.
or an arm style
It's
where everything is
pretty good.
hidden and covered.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's also an air blast when the taper comes down over the
Oh
over the
yeah, the
tool
purge.
holder. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a purge, but yeah, not thorough enough in my opinion. I like the way that the
Can you
brothers do
turn
it
up
without
that valve?
coolant. I must have a look. It might actually be running at a bit low pressure. I must go and have a look in the back.
Yeah, you should open up that valve for that air purge, and you might get a little bit more pressure on that blast. It will help
Yeah,
getting that stuff off your taper when you do a tool change.
because I'm planning on using. So I don't have, or I'm not sure. I think I have through spindle air on the machine. I don't have any way to turn it on manually, but I know where the solenoid is and I know where the airline is. So what I'm thinking, I've got you've obviously seen the gimbal automation stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I've got one of those grippers, just the actual
It's
gripping
like a tool
cylinder.
holder. Yeah.
I'd
Oh,
need to
okay.
make the adapter for my tool holder and buy a through
Okay.
spindle coolant pull stud, and then I should be able to trigger it by running my air purge.
It's the pull stud with the hole in it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have some dumb ideas kicking around in my brain of auto part loading using a effectively another CNC machine inside my LK.
Okay. Is that kind of
So
like the
yeah,
new 5-axis gimbal setup that they're doing?
something similar to
Similar?
that. So a
Yeah.
material rack, but he's obviously using the main kinematics of the machine. I can't go to
Yeah.
the side with my spindle, so I was going to make effectively a little gantry that can grab, kind of like the Kern's tool changer, something to that
Oh,
effect
I've
that can
never
go
seen the
grab
Kerns.
material. Pardon?
Okay.
Have you not seen a Kern?
Oh, I've seen the Kerns.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
So
I
something,
they have different models and different tool changers.
yeah,
I don't
they're
know.
the one like Grimsmo's got. So building something like that sits inside the LK's enclosure because there's lots of spare space, grabs my
Hmm.
parts or grabs a blank off the rack, goes down to a load position. The table comes over, we drop it on there. Then the table goes to the spindle. The spindle picks up the material and puts it in the vise. The problem there is a lot of the stuff I run is not high enough quantity to justify the time investments or the money investments in
It's a
automating the
massive
processes.
effort to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is a massive effort to do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I might, if they pick up their production numbers for next year, I might look at doing something like that with the sensor housings that I make, because I'm going to need to run 250 to 500 of them a month. In that case, it justifies the time and effort to get it automated. If I can
Totally
let
worth
it
it.
run, yeah, if I can let it run for 2 hours or 3 hours unattended, then that's great. I mean, I can run it in the evenings, but then I need to add a spindle probe, and like it gets complicated very quickly because you can't assume things are where they're supposed to be. You would then want to position it, come with the spindle probe, verify it's there, and then carry on. So I'd have to then add a spindle probe. So like the costs just start to balloon very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, you got to
Yeah.
check and make sure your blank is there before you
Yeah.
send the gripper over to grab it, and then it has to. There's a lot of checks with the probe, make sure it knows where everything is before it moves, and
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot automation, reliable automation is there's a lot that goes into it. Unreliable automation's easy, where you tell it to do something and you hope for the best. Like that's
yeah.
pretty
Who
easy
needs
to
tool
achieve.
brake check?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was running tool break check this week. I
Just
friggin' love it. On
yeah,
those on
how's
the
that going
mold,
for you?
it
Yeah,
works. The only problem I've got with it is so basically I piggybacked on the cycle start button. So what I do is I tell it to go 4 thou below where the tool break detector is, or the tool length offset is. So it'll always
yeah.
trigger. And it then pauses and waits for the start button to be pushed before continuing. But somewhere in that mix, my start button is picking up electrical noise. So I'll put it on tool break detect. I'll be loading a part and the cycle will start, which is a little bit dangerous. So I've added to my code to turn on and off the chip conveyor, and I need to just buy a 24-volt relay and put that in line. So basically, when I do the tool break detect, before I probe for the actual tool setter, I turn on my chip conveyor, which will then enable the start button to be pressed. So just another layer of redundancy or of
Okay,
disconnect.
what that will help
And
with the noise?
that'll help with the electrical noise because then I can
Okay.
disconnect right at the start switch. So I'll
Hmm.
disconnect right there that there's less chance of electrical interference causing an erroneous start being pushed.
Okay.
Because I was actually loading my chuck on my lathe chuck onto the mill yesterday, and I'd been running the night before with tool break detect, had it still enabled, and was busy loading the chuck. And next thing, the machine just took off to do the warm up cycle because that it got an erroneous start signal,
Well,
which
that's
is just a
scary.
little bit dangerous. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrifying. It was at 100% rapids, so it did that move at 48 meters a minute or 1,900 inches a minute.
That will wake you up in the morning
I was
for sure.
very, very awake after that.
As soon as that happened, you said, "Well, I'm very awake now."
Yeah. So I need to. I think I have a 24-volt relay kicking around. Otherwise, I need to just get one on order, and then I'm going to tie that into the machine in the very near future. That I've got that safe disconnect enabled. It's basically, yeah. It disables my shenanigans that I've got going on just to make the machine a little bit safer. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
planning on running running a Linux CNC machine inside the side of my machine to do part loading. But yeah, it's a whole thing to make it work.
Linux.
Yeah, like
I've
Linux
heard.
CNCs. Yeah, it's easy. I love it. Like I'm good at setting it up. I think I'm well into the double digits on retrofits I've done. So like I'm really a fay with it and the macro programming on it as well. So like the example now for loading those bars, I would just put them on a rack, go grab one, put it in the load position, and let it put it in the machine. And writing that macro is not particularly complicated. Once you know where all the rack positions are, it's okay, cool. It's run part one. It's now running part two. Go pick up from part two. Once it's done with that, it's a bit of basic logic.
Yeah, I bought a Fanic Macros book that I've been reading, and it's really in depth and very interesting. It's kind of hard to read, but it's
Yeah,
like, if this, then this, you
yeah.
know?
No, it's like macro programming is where it's at. I know Kurt's got in from Confounders, got into the Siemens macro programming, and I need to have a chat with them because most of the work I do on the Siemens controller, I don't really need macro programming. But if I'm going to start loading parts automatically, I'm going to need to get a little bit into it.
Yeah,
Like
screw Linux, man.
I've written some subroutines as like up till now. So I've got tool break detect and tool measurement position. So on the Siemens controller, you literally just type in whatever the name of your sub program is. So TMP is TMP, tool measurement position. You type in TMP and MDI, hit cycle start, and the machine goes to above the tool setter. If you type TBD, tool break detect, it will go there, do the tool break detect cycle, complete automatically.
And that's the 4,000 slower on top of the tool setter, and it beeps and it goes
Yeah,
back up. Yeah.
that's it. And if you don't have the toggle switch set, then it doesn't go back up. It stays there. But it works surprisingly well. I actually haven't had a trigger. Since I've had it, I haven't broken a tool because that's just how it goes. But
You need
in
to knock
practice,
on wood right now.
yeah, there we go. Knock on cheap wood. But yeah, in practice, it seems to work. The reason I put it in is I was running a job and I was pausing after every one of the small tools to make sure that the tool was still there. And then the job came around again, and I'm like, no, time to integrate this thing because I can't be walking to the machine every minute to check that the tool is still there. Because I was
Yeah, it's a
running,
time killer.
yeah, the cycle time was an hour and a half. I was running 20 parts at a time, salami slicing them off. And then I'd have to walk up and check and check. So I added a bit of automation to it. Like I even added an old end mill upside down that would do a contour pass just to knock the parts off in case they were still attached.
Oh, that's a good redundancy right there.
Yeah, so
That's
spin
a
it
good check.
backwards or spin it slowly, come like probably 20th thou above where the slitting saw ran and just run it slowly across. If the part's there, it's going to knock it loose.
Very
Didn't need
cool.
that either, but rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Instead of the Linux CNC on your new advanced tool changer gantry style contraption, I think you should be running Mach 3, man.
No, yeah. I haven't run Mach 3 in years for a good reason. I hate that software. Other than the fact that it looks like it's from the 90s, I hate that software. It is horrid and unreliable. I think the
It's a
last
joke,
time
man.
I
Calm
ran
down.
that was probably in like 2014 on a machine that I put together at home before I went over to running an Arduino with GRBL.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's actually really it's used everywhere actually. Like all the laser cutters run it. It's a really good entry level control software. It just the interface. There's a lot of optional interfaces, but it's by no means industrial. Like it doesn't actually have a proper tool change or tool length offsets or any of that stuff. It's what
Do people
my
build like 3D printers and use it?
3D printers. The older ones, their G code interpreter was based on GRBL. My laser cutter runs it. My Slowio ran it for the first 6 months. Then I moved over to Linux CNC.
Yeah.
And line extension is way better. We were meant to talk about tool numbers, but I think we're going to save that for next week about tool
Oh
libraries
wow.
and tool numbers and stuff because
Yeah, we got
we're at
off topic.
yeah, we got off topic hard. We're at an hour and a half, so I think we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we'll.
Uh,
Yeah, my headphones have died already, so
oh geez, okay.
I guess that's the
So
time.
let's quickly wrap it up. What are
Yeah.
your plans for today and this week that's coming?
Okay. Well, for today and this week that's coming, let's see. Well, I'm gonna get the coolant changed out in my old machine so I can start running the magnesium parts.
Okay,
I already have the customer supplied material. He shipped
nice.
me. It's supposed to be 5 pieces, but he was cool enough to send me an extra piece, which
That's
is
always
nice in case I
appreciated.
scrap
Yeah.
one.
Just quick
So,
question on that. Do you have a fire extinguisher on hand?
I'm going to have a fire extinguisher on hand very soon.
Okay, it might need to be a class D because it's potentially a metal fire. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, those are very expensive, right?
I know we had to buy one for the combat robotics stuff. It was $50 for a tiny little like looks like a spray paint can,
Yeah, yeah,
but we
yeah,
had to
yeah.
have it.
I've looked into those. That's probably what I'm going to be end up buying, and we're also going to have a big pot full of sand in case I need to throw
Okay.
sand in my machine.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully you can get the
Yeah.
part into the sand, not the sand into the pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can unclamp it and throw the part into the
Yeah.
sand. That would be the goal.
Yeah.
Ideal.
Hopefully you don't need to do any of this.
Yeah, I asked the customer, I said, man, are you really sure you want magnesium? Yes, it has to be magnesium. That's what I want. I said, okay. I've
Okay.
never machined magnesium before. Um, I
Yeah.
know it's pretty sketchy in some
Is
aspects
it
from some people I've talked to.
is it a
Um,
magnesium alloy aluminium alloy that you're running?
it is
Because I doubt
a
it's pure magnesium.
it's ZK60A, I
One
believe,
moment. Because 60A. Let's see
something
what
like
comes
that.
up. Oh yeah, it's a magnesium alloy.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully.
yeah.
Ooh.
The customer, he
Ooh.
used to own his own machine shop. He assured me it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
gonna
looking
kind of
at
have to
what's
take
in
his word at
this.
that. Yeah,
It's terrifying. It's magnesium, zinc, and zirconium.
yeah,
That's going to be fun. Well, yeah. Let's hope you don't need any of the fire suppression stuff.
yeah, yeah. So I will have plenty of those little $50 cans on hand, which
Yeah.
of course I didn't quote put factor into the quote, so that might bite me in the ass. But hopefully I don't need one.
Yeah. Hopefully
That's the goal.
hopefully you still have them when you're done with the job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I don't
Okay.
need them. And then I am going to be setting up another prototype for my product line on the new machine, which
Okay.
a customer is already waiting on because it's a revision, and I'm really excited to do that. And that's
Okay.
just my next 2 jobs that I have lined up. So it's
Nice.
going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the magnesium is going to be really interesting. But yeah, I've got what do I have going on this week? I need to do a CNC retrofit, which I need to go and like finish this week because I kind of want to get paid for it. Um, and then I'm finishing up those rings and the molds I've been working on. That'll be finished up this morning, and then hopefully we'll be getting an order for 4,000. No, what's it? Yeah, for a couple thousand components from from the regular customer, and then we can get into the swing of that. But I'm only going to be able to get material next week because my cousin who organizes material for me is on holiday till next week.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'll just have to do all the prep work in the interim. And then yeah, I think I'm going to be running mag bases. I need to make stock just so that I have on the shelf that when I get orders, I can anodize and ship out.
Well, those are
Because
the firearms parts that
yeah,
spin the
the
magazine.
plus. So I do plus two shoes
Hmm.
for the Glock 19 and 17, any of the double stacks, and then for the
Hmm.
CZ PO7 and PO9 and P10. So those are the ones I actually need to run. But it's one of those things that I set it up and I'll run through 50 of them in a morning. Like it's with the LK, it's super easy and super efficient to run them. Like they used to
I think
take
those
me
are one of my
30.
favorite products that you make.
Yeah,
Is
they
those
like
mag bases?
yeah, that's what actually got us properly profitable is the mag bases. But yeah,
Yeah, those are
I
cool.
need to basically just run a bunch of stock so that I've only got 1 or 2 customers that actually order them, and they order every like 2 or 3 months. But I just order material when I do another order, like when I do an aluminium order, I'll just order material because the material is not high cost. And then when I get a gap on the machine, I just pump them through, put them on the shelf, and then as I get orders, I tumble, buff, and anodize them.
Okay, so you do all the after processing with the finishing and the anodizing too.
Yeah, so that's why I have the anno setup is actually for making
Yeah,
mag bases. So
very cool.
I'll machine them all. I might run them through Tumble if I have capacity. Then they sit on the shelf in little trays. When I get an order, then I Scotch Brite and anodize to order. That way, I don't end up with dead stock.
Okay. With
Yeah,
the 1,000 parts, is that a lathe job for Bertha
um,
or the
yeah,
MCO, or is that all millwork?
that'll be a couple hundred parts on Bertha, then a couple thousand parts on the MCO, and then the stuff that gets done on Bertha gets a op in the LK, but that's like I think it's like 15 seconds per part. So that's I use
Mm-hmm.
the pallets and I load 9 at a time, and then one of the other components has to go into the Slowio. I still use the Slowio to slip the electrical connectors that I make.
Very cool. So
So yeah, it's a
the
high mix.
Bertha is the one with the gang tool holders, right?
Yes, that's the Gang
Yeah.
Tool
Yeah.
Alex Tech lathe from
What
2000.
would you call that? A tool holder rack or set? I
No,
don't know.
it's a gang lathe.
A
So
gang life.
yeah, gang lathe. So it's got different gang blocks on it, and then yeah, the MCO is a little turret lathe.
Damn, that lathe is a gangster.
Yeah, no, that thing it is, especially for what I paid for it. But yeah, anyway, we're going to end the podcast here, and then next week we need to
Yeah.
remember to talk about tool libraries and tool numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, let me play our outro. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you'll hear from us in the next week or so.
Enjoy making chips.
Yeah, let's go make some noise.